He thought forcing her onto that stage would give the audience something to laugh at. But he had no idea he was about to hand her the moment that would silence them all. The grand recital hall of Whitmore Conservatory glowed under warm chandelier light, its polished marble floors reflecting rows of elegantly dressed guests who whispered with anticipation, their voices blending into a soft hum of expectation. And at the center of it all stood Professor Daniel Whitmore, a man whose reputation carried the weight of decades, his tailored suit crisp, his silver hair perfectly in place, his presence commanding the room as if he alone decided who belonged in the world of music and who did not. And just beyond the stage, nearly invisible against the shadows near the velvet curtains, Emily Carter moved quietly with a cleaning cloth in her hand, her simple gray cardigan slightly worn at the sleeves, her posture modest, her footsteps careful not to disturb the atmosphere of prestige that surrounded her, because after all, she was not meant to be seen here, only to pass through unnoticed like a whisper no one cared to hear. And for weeks, that had been exactly her role, a silent figure tidying up after rehearsals, adjusting chairs, wiping fingerprints from polished piano surfaces, always keeping her gaze lowered whenever faculty or students passed by, as if she had learned long ago that drawing attention was something to be avoided. Yet tonight, something shifted, subtle at first, barely noticeable, the kind of moment that most people would miss entirely. When Emily paused for just a second longer than usual beside the grand piano, her fingers hovering near the ivory keys as though they remembered something her life no longer allowed her to express. And that single hesitation did not go unnoticed, because from across the room, Whitmore's sharp eyes caught the movement, his lips tightening ever so slightly as a flicker of irritation crossed his face, the kind reserved for disruptions he deemed beneath him. And in that instant, a thought formed in his mind, cold and precise, the kind that would turn a quiet evening into something else entirely, something far more memorable. He straightened his posture and turned toward the audience with a thin, practiced smile, lifting his hand to command attention, the room gradually falling silent as conversations dissolved into anticipation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth but edged with something sharper beneath. "Tonight we celebrate excellence, discipline, and the pursuit of true artistry," words that carried weight, yet somehow felt like a setup rather than a conclusion. And then, almost casually, his gaze drifted back toward the shadows where Emily stood, unaware that every eye would soon follow his lead. And with a subtle gesture that seemed harmless to those who did not understand his intent, he said, "But perhaps we could all use a brief moment of unexpected entertainment." The phrase hung in the air, light on the surface, but heavy with implication, and as heads turned and whispers stirred once more, Emily felt it before she fully understood it, the shift in attention, the invisible spotlight moving toward her, her breath catching slightly as Whitmore's voice called out across the hall, "Miss Carter, would you join us on stage for a moment?" And just like that, the invisible woman was no longer invisible, every gaze now fixed on her, curiosity mixed with amusement, some already smiling as if anticipating the joke before it had even begun. And for a brief second, Emily didn't move, her heart beating just a little faster, her mind quiet, too quiet, as if standing at the edge of something she had spent years avoiding. And somewhere in the stillness of that moment, something unspoken began to awaken, something that had never truly left, even if the world had long forgotten it. And as she slowly stepped forward, the sound of her shoes against the polished floor echoing softly through the hall, the room held its breath, not out of respect, but expectation, because they believed they were about to witness embarrassment, a harmless little spectacle, a reminder of who belonged and who did not. And none of them, not a single person in that room, realized that the moment they were waiting for would not unfold the way they imagined, because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding the power to change everything. And sometimes, all it takes is one note to remind the world what true talent sounds like.